The kids have been working very, very hard to put together a very wonderful show for you tonight. And they have written reports, they have done PowerPoint presentations, even my little guys wrote a report. We did it as a whole class, but we learned about report writing in this process. We've learned a lot of information, both about science, about the equinox and geology, and about cultures around the world of celebrations at this time of year. And so I welcome you to our Festival of Lights. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Miss Karen? No. The posters.
What posters? I did already.
Oh, sorry, my fault.
Do your thing, Miss Lisa. Okay, take care of. Okay, just let me get all my stuff together here so that I know what I'm doing and when.
Yes, Christmas is coming up, but did you know that there are lots of other holidays that people around the world celebrate at this time of year?
There's Hanukkah and Diwali, Kwanzaa and Yule, St. Lucia Day, Dia de Reyes, the Day of the King, which is also called Epiphany or Little Christmas, Advent, Magnolia, St. Nicholas Day, Tang, Nicholas' birthday.
And the list can go on from there. Wow! Did you ever wonder why there are so many holidays this time of year? To understand why, we need to understand a little bit about the Earth.
Let's pretend that this is the Earth. The Earth is a planet. The word planet means wonder in ancient Greek.
You see the ancient astronomers watch the night sky very closely. They notice that some dots of light stay in specific patterns while others seem to move in and out of the patterns. They call the dots that stayed in patterns stars, and they call the patterns constellations.
Here is a representation of the constellation Cassiopeia. These are the stars. The ancients would connect the dots with them and in their imaginations make a picture of something. This shape was called a constellation.
But then there would be these other stars that would wander through the constellations. They call these stars wanderers, or in their language, planets.
Much later we found out that there are two different kinds of planets. The interterrestrial planets, which is made up of rock, and the outer gaseous giants, which is made up of frozen gas.
We also learned that all the planets are going around the sun and that the Earth itself was a planet.
Not only that, but through many controlled experiments, scientists have determined that stars are actually gigantic balls of burning gas, and that our sun is really a star.
Hey, that's cool, but what does it have to do with Christmas? Well, let's take a closer look at the Earth.
is a huge ball, a sphere to use scientific terms. This sphere has an imaginary pole going through it that is called the axis. The place on top where the axis comes out is called the North Pole, and the place on bottom where it comes out is called the South Pole. There's a line around the middle of the Earth that is called the equator.
The equator is really important because it cuts the Earth into two halves or hemispheres. The prefix hemi means half, and the root term means ball. So a hemisphere is half of a ball.
The top hemisphere is called the Northern Hemisphere, and the Southern Hemisphere is called the bottom hemisphere is called the Southern Hemisphere.
Now none of this would matter except that the Earth's axis doesn't go straight up and down. It is slightly tilted.
Remember that we said that the Earth goes around the sun? Well, going around the sun is called revolution. It takes 1 year for the Earth to go around the sun.
1 year? Wow, that's a really long time. How many days is it? How many weeks? How many months?
365 days, 52 weeks, and 12 months.
Wow, a year really is a really long time.
Yes, it is. Some people have trouble remembering numbers, so here's an easy and fun way to remember them.
The Earth goes around the sun.
The Earth goes around the sun. It takes 12 months, 52 weeks, 365 days.
As the Earth revolves around the sun, sometimes the Northern Hemisphere is pointing directly at the sun, and the Southern Hemisphere is pointing away from the sun. And sometimes the Southern Hemisphere is pointing directly at the sun, and the Northern Hemisphere is pointing away.
Do you understand? Whichever hemisphere the sun is pointing to, that hemisphere is having summer, and the other hemisphere is having winter. That's why at Christmas time, people in Australia sing Christmas carols on the beach in their bathing suits.
And we go sledding in the snow.
You've got it. It just depends on which continent and which hemisphere you live on.
North America, South America, Africa, and Asia, Europe, Australia, and don't forget Antarctica. These make up the continents of our world.
This is really interesting.
But I still don't understand how Christmas is involved in all of this.
Okay.
Well, during the winter when we are pointed away from the sun, we get fewer hours of daylight. Nowadays, we put our lights on earlier, but long ago they didn't have electric lights. They used candles and lanterns. As they started to light the candles and lanterns earlier and earlier, they would tell stories of the great feats of their ancestors, and the festivals of light started to come about.
Do all places have festivals of light in the winter?
Most not all. A lot depends on how much daylight the area receives. The further away from the you go, the less daylight you receive in the wintertime, and the more you need to put your lights on earlier.
Also, what people did for a living and even what kind of calendar they had an influence on whether or not they had a festival of light. For example, the Islamic calendar is based on the day is based on the moon. For there isn't
Had a festival, for example.
For example, the Islamic calendar is based on the moon. The months are attached to a specific season, so there is a festival of light.
Do you mean that there are different kinds of calendars?
Yes, there are many different kinds of calendars. A calendar is just a way to measure time. Most cultures and religions have their own calendar based on something very important to them. For example, the calendar you use is called the Christian or Gregorian calendar. It is named after the Catholic Pope Gregory. He had his
develop it. Remember? Sweetheart, read it. Here you go. Gosh. Read it from this first. Right there. Sometimes it happens. You might go on. Read it. Go ahead. No, you don't want to do it? Okay, I'll do it then. Ready? For example, the calendar you use is called the Christian or Gregorian calendar. You can chime in. It is named after the Catholic Pope Gregory. He had his greatest astronomers develop it in the year 1582. The Gregorian calendar, ready? The Gregorian calendar is based on the birth of Jesus because that is a very important event for the Christian people. But the Jewish calendar is based on the day the ancient Jewish people believed the world was created. You're going to tell me what this is. We changed the dates. On the Jewish calendar, it is not the year 2015? 2014. It is the year, what, 66? It is the year 5775. Sometimes that happens to me.
And the Islamic calendar is based on the Muslim prophet Muhammad moved from Mecca to Medina. And the Islamic calendar, it is the year 1435.
On the Mayan calendar is based on the moon and the sun and stars. To keep track of those moons, the ancient Mayans built moon with small holes in special places. On equinoxes, the sun's rays would shine through these moons, and the imsa would carved on the four walls. The information collected in these buildings was then called codices, was used to make creative calendar, an everyday calendar, a religious calendar, a non-count calendar, which was used to measure longer periods of time. All these calendars work together in a great cycle on December 21st, 2012. All these calendars realigned and the great cycle started again.
On the Chinese calendar, it's the year 4712. The legendary emperor Huangdi is credited with making. Do people ever get confused with so many calendars?
It would be confusing if everybody was using a different calendar. Nowadays, most countries use the Gregorian calendar for everyday activities, and their religious and cultural calendars for holidays and festivals. That's why some holidays like Hanukkah or the Chinese New Year aren't on the same date each year.
So are all the festivals of light different?
Go ahead, Max. Okay.
Yes, they have differences, but there are a lot of similarities too.
In fact, if you were to look at the Earth from space, you would just see a beautiful big blue marble. You wouldn't see differences as much as their similarities. As we learn about these different festivals, see if you can find similarities as well as their differences.
Da, 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 da. Michelle, Tristan, 1, 2, 3.
First a big blue marble when you see it from up there. The sun who declare our beauty's very rare. Diwali is the Indian festival of light. It commemorates light triumphing over dark and good triumphing over evil. It's also the Indian New Year and one of India's favorite holidays. Most of the Diwali stories took place in India more than 3,000 years ago. Today, wherever Indian people are in the world, there are Diwali celebrations.
Different groups of Indian people have different stories for this festival. The most well-known story comes from Ramayana, the great Hindu poem. According to the story, Prince Rama was ordered by his father, King Dasharatha, to leave his country and live in the forest for 14 years. Rama left with his wife Sita and went to live in the forest. Then Ravana demon-stole Sita and took her away to his island kingdom. Rama fought Ravana and won. Then he and Sita returned to Athoria. The people of Athoria were so happy to hear their beloved prince homecoming that they lit their houses with earthen lamps called diyas, burst firecrackers, and decorate the entire city in the most beautiful way. Another well-known story comes from Ramayana. Large Hindu poem called the Mahabharata. It is about 5 royal brothers who lost the game of dice and had to leave their kingdom for 13 years. When the time was over, they returned to their city. Since they were honest, kind, gentle, and caring in all ways, they were loved by the people. To celebrate the joyous return, the people lit bright earthen lamps everywhere. But Diwali is not just a Hindu celebration for Sikhs. It is the return of the 6th Guru. Guru Har Gobind Ji was released from jail along with 52 Hindu kings. As he entered the city of Gandhir, he was welcomed with the sight of the golden temple lit with the hundreds of diyas. Jain people celebrate Lord Mahavira reaching nirvana. They believe that Lord Mahavira created the rules called the Dharma. Jains believe that the nirvana when they understand the world completely and become one with it.
No matter what reason why they celebrate Diwali, the idea behind Diwali is the same: light conquers darkness and good conquers evil.
We wish you happy and joyful Diwali. Happy Indian New Year.
Thank you, Joseph. She's right there. She's Joseph.
St. Nicholas Day is a Dutch holiday. It is not a festival of light, but we studied it because it is the origin of Santa Claus. St. Nicholas lived in the 4th century in the city of Myra, in what it is now called the country of Turkey. When he was young, his parents died and left him a lot of money. He went to live with his uncle who was a priest. One day he heard about a dying man who had lost all his money. He had 3 daughters who were old enough to get married. But in those days, young women had to have money in order to get married. This money was called a dowry, and it was used to help the new family get started. If you didn't have dowry money, you didn't get married. This family was so poor that not only did they not have dowry money, they didn't have anything to eat. Sadly, the father was going to sell his daughters into slavery because he couldn't take care of them any longer. The night before the oldest daughter was to be sold, she washed her stockings and put them in front of the fire to dry. Then all of them went to bed. In the morning, the daughter saw a lump in her stocking. Reaching in, she found a small, heavy bag with enough gold to provide food for the family and money for her dowry. Oh, how happy they were. The next morning, another bag with gold was found in the second daughter's stocking. On the third night, the father planned to stay awake to find out who was helping his daughters. He heard a small clink as another bag landed in the third girl's stocking. Quickly, he jumped up and ran out the door and found Nicholas. "Nicholas, it is you. Thank you for helping us. I hardly know what to say," he cried. Nicholas said, "Please do not thank me. I am just happy to help you. Please do not tell others about me." Nicholas continued helping people. He always tried to help secretly. He didn't want any attention for things. Years passed and he was chosen to be a bishop. Bishops look after their people as shepherds look after their sheep. And that is what Nicholas did. When there wasn't any food, he found wheat, so no one went hungry. He always helped people in trouble. All his life, Nicholas showed people how to love and care for each other. Everyone loved Nicholas. After he died, they told stories of the good and kind things he had done. Sailors then took these stories everywhere they went, throughout Europe and North Africa. Soon, even people in Holland are celebrating the good things Nicholas had done. Men often dressed up as Nicholas and gave presents to girls and boys. When some Dutch people came to America and brought their traditions of St. Nicholas with them, when the other Americans saw them celebrating, they asked them what they were doing, and they replied, celebrating the good deeds of St. Nicholas. But since they had an accent, it sounded like they said, celebrating the good deeds of Santa Claus. Soon, most of America was celebrating the good deeds of Santa Claus. And that is how St. Nicholas, a 4th century bishop of Myra, became America's beloved Santa Claus.
Lucia Day is the Scandinavian festival of light. It originated in Sicily and is celebrated in Sweden, Norway, and Finland. St. Lucia Day is the day people remember St. Lucy, who is the saint of hospitality, sharing and caring for others. She is the patron saint of Sweden. There are lots of stories about St. Lucia. Many of them are scary and pretty inappropriate, which is why that's really weird because the holiday is really cool and beautiful. We did find one cool story about her. The story goes like this. Lucy was born of rich and noble parents about the year 283 AD. Her father was Roman but died when she was 5 years old, leaving Lucy and her Greek mother Eutychia without anyone to help them. Lucy secretly promised to God that she would never get married so she could dedicate her life to serving others. When she became a woman, she was very beautiful, and many men wanted to marry her. One of these men was named Paisius. Paisius really wanted to marry Lucy, but when he asked her to marry him, Lucy refused. He begged and begged and begged, but she refused. Eventually, he got so tired of hearing no, he wanted to kill her. He tied her to a stake with the idea of burning her to death. But she didn't burn. Instead, she glowed. This is why they call St. Lucia the Queen of Light. On St. Lucia Day, girls dress up as St. Lucia. They wear candles on their head to symbolize her glowing and a long white dress in a red sash. They get up very early to make cinnamon rolls and tea, then serve them to their family in memory of St. Lucia serving others. In Swedish tradition, boys dress up in white gowns and wear a big pointy hat that has stars all over. They are called star boys in memory of Saint Stephanos. The legend says that Stephanos worked in King Herod's stables and gave the horses water when he saw the star of Bethlehem. He ran to Herod and told him that the new king of the Jews has been born. Herod got very angry and frightened and ordered Stephanos to be killed. After his death, like Lucia, he became a saint. We know it's a weird story, but it's a beautiful holiday. Happy St. Lucia Day!
Children receive little token gifts like chocolate and stickers. But in the United States, it has become a major holiday, with children receiving lots of gifts. This way they don't feel left out when their Christian friends get presents for Christmas. Hanukkah commemorates the 2nd century BCE. Jewish peoples were dedication of their temple in Jerusalem. The story of Hanukkah goes like this. The Jewish people were living peacefully until the Greek king Antiochus of Syria took over their land. 175 BCE. He said that since the Jewish people were now living in a Greek country, they all had to speak, dress, and worship like Greeks. When the Jewish people refused to assimilate, the Greeks robbed the Jews of their property
set up statues of Greek gods all over the place. They even put a statue of Zeus in the Temple of Jerusalem. A Jewish man named Judah, his son, and a small band of other Jews called themselves the Maccabees, which means hammerers, and rose up and drove the Greeks out of the land. The Jewish people went to work restoring the temple. When they were about to light the great candelabra called a menorah, that had 7 candles on it, one for each day of creation, they found that there was only 1 day's worth of oil. It would take 7 days to make for oil. Sadly, the Jews lit their candelabra expecting that it would soon die out. But it didn't. The oil burned for 8 days. Jewish people now celebrate Hanukkah for 8 days to remember the oil that lasted for 8 days. They eat food fried in oil like potato pancakes, which they call latkes, and jelly donuts, which they call sufganot, to remember that the oil lasted for 8 days. They also light a ninth candelabra called a Hanukkah that has 1 candle on it for each of the 8 days of the oil that burned, and 1 helper candle that they use to light the other candles. On Hanukkah, Jewish people also play a game with a 4-sided dice top called dreidel. On each side there is one Hebrew letter, Nun, Gimel, Hey, and Shin. They are the first letters of the words Nes, Gadol, Hey, Shem, which means a great miracle happened there. Dreidels in Israel are slightly different. They have the letters Nun, Gimel, Hey, and Pei. They stand for the Hebrew sentence Nes, Gadol, Hey, Po, which means a great miracle happened here.
It was a holiday that was celebrated in Northern Europe by the Scandinavian, Germanic, and Celtic people. It is a very ancient tradition that was started long before Christmas. It was celebrated on the winter solstice, which is the time of year of the longest night and the shortest day.
There were some differences and similarities in the way Yule was celebrated by the different cultures. In all the Yule celebration, there is the fight of the darkness and light. In fact, in the most northern regions on the winter solstice, the sun never rises. The people fear that the sun would not come back. So to help strengthen the sun and conquer the darkness, huge bonfires were lit. In some areas, candles were place in houses. For some, real celebration was just one night. For others, it would last 12 days, and for others still, the feasting and celebrating would go on for a month. Part of the tradition was the burning of the Yule log. A Yule log was a specially chosen log, or in some cases, an entire tree, which was placed in the fire and burned throughout the Yuletide. The celebration, part of the log would be kept unburned to light the Yule log. Following year, it would be stored under the bed to protect the house against thunder and lightning. Some traditions, a wild boar was hunted and offered to Odin for strength and to other gods for a good fertile new year. It was then cooked, and the village people would have a wonderful feast. And other attractions, farmers would bleed animals to be sacrificed as an offer for a good harvest for next year. All the meat was cooked, and huge feast was held for several days. Some of the people would make a toast with cider or ale first to Odin for protection. Next, they would offer a toast to the fields for healthy crops. Finally, to the king or chief for good leadership. The meat was then cooked, and a huge feast was held for several days. Saturnalia was the holiday